As you trek through the fungal forest, bathed in its ethereal glow, you think you spy movement amongst the mushrooms. But as soon as your eyes adjust, it's gone. Was it your imagination? 2 more flashes of movement. No, something is stalking you. Suddenly, an ominous buzzing sound grows all around you. It gets louder and louder when suddenly a pack of Stirges bursts from the foliage. They swarm you in all directions and jab at you with their sword-like proboscises, hoping to drain you of your blood. Roll initiative. How's it going, fellow crafters? Before we get into the build, I want to take a moment to thank all of my subscribers at this point. When I started this channel, I told myself if one fellow crafter got something out of my videos, I would continue with this YouTube thing. I'm now 4 or 5 away from having 400 subscribers. So again, a genuine thank you. But now onto the build. These Stirge miniatures are by far the fastest and one of the easiest builds I've ever made, not just on this channel, but in my entire crafting career. And with that in mind, I have to say I am super happy with the results. So without further ado, let's head over to the table and I'll show you how I made my Stirge miniatures. For this project, there's going to be no foam, no cardboard, and I'll be almost exclusively utilizing my bit box. For the Stirge bodies, 3 out of the 4 components are going to be made out of beads. The really defining item of this project are going to be these wing beads that you can find at Michael's. These are going to give us some detailed wings with minimal effort. You could probably substitute some of the other items in this project, but you have to have these. Next we have these seed beads from Michael's. I picked these just because of the size, but they'll be covered up with baking soda and super glue, so you could probably substitute something else. And for the abdomens, I scoured some egg-shaped beads out of my rainbow glass beads set. I've used both this and the glass beads in a ton of different projects, from doorknobs to potions and potion tops to a wide array of other things. So while it might be a bit expensive to buy all this up front, these are going to last you throughout a ton of crafts. And then finally, for the proboscis, I used these dental picks that I got from my local grocery store. You could probably get away with using toothpicks, but I liked the curve on the end of these. Before gluing the pieces together, I washed them all in soap and water to get rid of any mold releases or resins. When connecting all these components together, I followed the same several steps. I'd first wet the piece I was connecting to the main structure. I'd dip that in baking soda. I'd then apply a bead of super glue to the main structure and then connect the two together. The first time I did this, super glue went all over the piece and all over the details on the wings. I quickly learned that you want to apply the super glue on the underside when you're holding the piece. That way, gravity keeps the super glue from going all over the piece, and the surface tension keeps it in that nice, clean droplet. And here I am applying it to the underside of the piece. I was careful to have clean joints here because I didn't want it to mess up the details. It's a good idea to have a toothpick on hand to clean up any excess baking soda. To connect the abdomen, I did the same thing. Wet and dip the bead in baking soda, add a droplet of super glue, and connect the pieces together. To fill in the hole in the bead, you can use baking soda and super glue, or if you want to be a bit cleaner, you could use Milliput. To make the proboscis, it was as simple as cutting down the dental picks to size, sanding down the cut so it was a flat surface, and then following the same steps for gluing the pieces together. To make the head a little bigger and build it up to a more organic shape, I used super glue and baking soda. I was careful with my application of super glue to make sure that the baking soda wouldn't get on other pieces and that it would have a decent shape to the head. This is something you just gotta test out on your own. And here's an example. If you want to add a curve to the body, you can add a little bit of baking soda and super glue to make a wedge in between the two pieces. You can then follow the same steps and glue them together, and blend them with super glue and baking soda. If you're making multiple monster miniatures, I think it's really important to have variance between the different pieces. Now for basing. For the bases, I use these wooden bases that you can get on Amazon. For the amount that you get, they're pretty darn cheap. However, you could get away with using small washers. In fact, washers might be better because it makes the pieces more bottom heavy and less likely to tip over. To raise up the Stirges, I use toothpicks. To prep the toothpicks, I just made a perpendicular cut and sanded that down level. I could then use baking soda and super glue to connect the toothpick in the base. Because of design, this is not a very strong bond, so I went in and reinforced with more baking soda and glue. I didn't worry about how this looked because it's going to be covered with sand. I wanted to have the miniatures flying at different angles, so based on the shape of the model, I would cut the toothpick at a certain angle. I then just simply attach that with baking soda and super glue. Make sure it's secure. If it's not, reinforce it. Now to decorate the base, add some weight to the bottom, and further secure the toothpick, I'm going to add small rocks and sand. And to do so, I just coat the base in super glue, being careful not to get it on the edge. I then place the rocks, and then add the sand. And I find it's easiest to apply the sand by dipping it into a cup. And with that, the Stirge build is done. Because there's no foam, these can be taken outside and sprayed with gray primer. Make sure you hold the can far enough away to apply a thin coat. You don't want the spray accumulating on the wings. I painted the toothpicks black to suggest that they're not part of the scene. However, I should have done this last because I got paint on every single one. I painted the base with the color scheme of my dungeon tiles and cavern tiles. The painting was pretty straightforward in this project, except with the wings. It was really easy for paint to obscure the detail in the wings. So I tried thinning paints, but that didn't really work. So I settled to applying a thin coat of paint, spreading it around a lot with the brush, letting it dry, and then coming back in with a somewhat dry brush. And by that I basically mean that it had a little bit more paint in it than you would with a true dry brush. For the main body, I base coated it in raw sienna. I then carried that raw sienna over the front of the wings. This would imply that it had the wing structure similar to a bat. To highlight the main body, I went in with the same raw sienna lightened up with white. To bring out that detail in the wings and fill in all the nooks and crannies, I used Citadel Sepia Wash. And man, was it satisfying to see that detail finally pop. Speaking of satisfying steps, the next step was to paint the black ring around the base. I do this on every single miniature I have, so I add some cohesion between all my sets. For the final step, I painted the eyes. To paint the eyes, I did a teardrop shape of black. I then went in with yellow to paint the iris. I then made a slit for the pupil, using my smallest brush possible. And after a quick coat of varnish, I could call this project done. Well, there you have it, how to make your own Stirge miniatures. If you like what you saw here, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. I got more videos on the way. And I do have to give a quick reminder, I am an Amazon affiliate. So if you want to help out the channel with no cost to you, consider using the links below for your Amazon purchases. It's no cost to you, but it helps out the channel in a small way, and it's greatly appreciated. Most importantly, however, don't forget to comment down below. I love to hear from y'all, and if you have any ideas for future episodes, let me know. I might get around to it. But that's going to wrap up today's video. Thanks for watching, everybody, and keep on crafting.